Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday Shelfie. Today we are on week 5 of 9 of my young adult and middle grade section. This is the first week we're getting into some stuff that I haven't read yet, so it'll be a little bit of a different video, at least based on how the last ones in my collection have gone for my adult science fiction fantasy stuff. In case you're new to this series, I'll leave a link to the full playlist below. But basically, I'm taking you through my entire collection 1 week at a time and going through each shelf in pretty good detail. So it's been so fun so far. So let's go look at more books. Starting out with the remainder of my Anamorphs collection. And these are kind of the extras of the series, like the odds and ends that perhaps the casual fan would not have invested in, but I freaking loved. These were awesome. Yeah, lots of cool stuff in here. We have even one in here that I believe was more of like a choose your own adventure kind of thing. At least that's how it felt to me. And kind of backstories on a lot of the mysterious enigmas in the series that we didn't get a lot of information on in the main series. So very much love those. And then the Disney Fairies collection. These aren't even middle grade. These are shelved in the chapter books section at Barnes & Noble. And these are some of my favorite things on my shelves. I was actually really looking forward to showcasing them. So the first one, Trouble with Tink. My favorite thing about these are the beautiful, fully colored illustrations throughout the entire novel. I don't know if you can call these novels, but you know what I mean. They are just absolutely gorgeous. And I find the stories quite interesting as an adult. I think the writers on them did a pretty good job. And I've got quite a few of them here, but I'm still missing one or two that you can't get anymore. So I kind of figured they'd be always available because they are so beautiful. But yeah, they've been kind of hard to find. But my son and I, he picked one at random and said he wanted to read it. So we've been kind of working our way through that one. And he's still just a little bit young for it to capture his attention. The pictures are only every like 2 or 3 pages, and he's still at the age where he wants a picture on every page. But yeah, I really love these. You can see I've still got some shrink wrapped here. I haven't made my way through the entire series, but yeah, I'm kind of loosely saving them for my kids. I've got Anna Guire's Vanguard here. This is book number 4, and it's a spin-off of her Razorland series. I really like that initial trilogy. It's kind of post-apocalyptic from zombies. I thought it was well done. I especially liked the first book. But yeah, this one, I just, it doesn't follow the same character, and that lack of continuity bothers me sometimes. I don't feel as invested. So I just haven't made time to pick it up, even though I'd probably like it. But now it's been so long that I doubt I will ever get around to that, truthfully, unless I reread the series for whatever reason. And then Anna Guire writes zombie books, and then she writes teen love stories. And I won a giveaway and ended up with a book with a signed book plate in it, which is kind of cool. I entered a competition on designing a cover for this book and did not quite win, but that was a lot of fun. I don't usually put myself out like that. But not really my type of story, but it's signed and I really like the author generally, so keeping that. The book Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson. It's a take on the Tiger Lily from Peter Pan. Kind of tells her story, which I find really interesting. That's not really a character you hear a lot about, but you could get really creative with some backstory for her. And I have heard from a couple of customers that it's a really lovely book, so that's why I thought I'd give it a go. And then we've got Star-Crossed by Josephine Angelini. I've got signed copies here. I think this might be the series that got turned into a TV series, but don't quote me on that. And maybe they just have the same name. Because this one is kind of giving me Grecian vibes, whereas I think that one was more sci-fi. But in any case, I haven't read anything from this author yet. I get the impression that she's got kind of a romance-heavy style. Yeah, haven't really gotten around to it. The Gathering. I don't remember if this is the first one in the spin-off series by this author. It could be The Calling. But I've got the whole trilogy here. And as you can see, I picked them up on bargain. in hardcover. It's a spin-off from her Summoning series, and I have read most of her Women of the Otherworld books and quite liked them. The first ones were definitely the strongest, and then it kind of petered out from there. And similarly with this young adult series, The Summoning was awesome, and then I really didn't care for the next two books. And so I had already bought all of these, and then decided that perhaps I am not really interested in continuing, but I've got them all in hardcover, so what do I do? But, you know, as with anything, I might pick her up eventually again. And then she also has this other young adult trilogy that I managed to collect, Empire of Night. I'm not sure if this is the first one or not, actually. But I like her ideas so much, and she's so strong out the gate, that I am definitely going to give this series a try. And hopefully it maintains its momentum a lot better than the other things that I've read from her. Because when she is on, she is like fire. One of the best in the genres. And then it feels like from there she kind of phones it in. Okay, I've got Everneath by Brody Ashton, also signed. A friend and coworker read this series, and it's one of her all-time favorites. She gushed about it forever, and I've just not made time to read it. It looks lovely. I'm not quite sure what it's about. I like to go into my stories a little bit blind, but she's quite popular author at the time when it came out. I only have the first two here. I'm pretty sure it's a trilogy. But yeah, eventually I will get around to those. Story of my life. Yes, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo in my unread section. I know. So many people keep telling me to read this series. So many people. And I have to say, I was just a little bit disappointed with the Grisha trilogy long before this book even came out. And so I just don't find myself excited to get into it. I didn't like the basic writing. That was my objection, and so I can't imagine that changes too much in this one. But everybody says, oh, it does. It's amazing. You'll love it. There's a heist. It's awesome. So I hear you. I do. I'm listening. I will read that eventually. So when I read The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, I went and bought every single thing she had on the market because I loved it so much. So much. I got everything signed, which is pretty dang cool. The problem is I'm a little hesitant to pick these ones up because I tried a werewolf trilogy by her and DNF'd with like, I don't know, 25 pages to go. It just did not work for me on any level. But that was a paranormal attempt, whereas these, at least these two, are murder mysteries, which I think is where her strength lies. And then I have no idea what this one is about, but it has to do with tattoos, as far as I know. I actually think that's the second book. Anyway, love this author's writing. She's a psychology professor at Yale, and I believe a graduate from there, so really smart woman, and integrates a lot of the things she studies into her books, and I love that. In another life, I should have majored in psychology. I think I would have really loved it. But I went the practical route. Dave Baldacci's The Finisher. This is an arc of this book. I am not optimistic that it's going to be amazing. David Baldacci comes out with so many books, and either he's got a ghostwriter or they are incredibly poor quality, able to churn out that much. So when I'm in the mood for something light, I may pick that up. But I do like it when adult writers tackle young adult fantasy and sci-fi. I think a lot of times they make them a little bit more robust than they would have otherwise, which I'm sure you've heard me say a million times. I bought these on a whim. Hilary Bell, The Wizard Test, and The Shield of Stars. I think they are two separate series completely. But something about the types of stories that this woman writes just saying to me, I'm like, I'll give those a shot. The Wizard Test especially sounds cool. It's like a little middle grade book here. Anything to do with magic and testing, I'm all there for. Okay, the book Unspoken by Sarah Reese Brennan. I met this author at the Vegas Valley Book Festival. She was kind of a last minute purchase for me. I'm like, well, what if I end up liking it? So I went and spent money on it and then brought it to her booth to get signed. And the first thing she said to me was, "Oh, you're going to hate this book." And I think she was trying to be cheeky and indicate that a lot of hard things happen in this book and it's very evoking. I think that's what she was going for, but it came off so flippant and oh, I just found it so off-putting. I'm like, well, that's a hell of endorsement. I am probably never going to read your book now because it just screams angst and unnecessary drama, and I'm not about that. Well, some angst, but maybe not the kind that she indicated was in here. Anyway, it was just a really weird interaction, and I had instant buyer's remorse, but now it's signed and endorsed to me, so what do I do? We shall see. Of all the things on this week's tour, I am probably most interested in picking this one up. So, the first one's called The Fairy Lord by Herbie Brennan, the Fairy Wars Chronicles. These particular editions are marketed towards young adults, but I also have, or had, an adult version with a Louise Royaux cover. I don't know if they changed the content, but either way, the publishers can't decide who they best want to sell the series to. But I am just quite interested in it. Probably because of the marketing, but I also love reading these small, really flexible trade paperbacks. I think they are a lot of fun. So, I know nothing about the story. I don't even know if I'm going to like it. I haven't heard any feedback on it, but I still really want to read it. We have Daughter of Dusk, second book to the Midnight Thief by Olivia Blackburn. The first one was okay. It was pretty good. I read it as an arc, and it's about, young adult werewolves. And I don't remember a strong thieving aspect, but it obviously was in there, or else it wouldn't have been called that. But this second book came out over a year after the first one, and by the time it came out, I just had lost interest in the series. So I never continued. I think I picked this one up on a bargain, thinking, well, maybe I'll get back to it, but just never have. The Slayer Chronicles by Brewer. This one's called First Kill. It is one of the few paranormal young adults marketed mostly towards boys, which indicates to me that there's probably a little more action, a little less love story, and I find that very appealing, so I kind of wanted to give that one a shot. Because, let's be real, almost all of them are geared towards women. Then I just have a couple of little hodgepodge animal adventures that my mom got me when I was a little kid. We're talking 6 or 7 years old, and I still haven't read these. But she got them in a shopping cart at Walmart. There were just a whole bunch of little books on sale. And I'm grateful she bought them for me, but I've never read them. I think I've tried to read the Blue Jay one a couple times, but just never got into it. So who knows if I picked it up too early or if the writing was just poor. That's something to be explored for another day, but I'm hanging on to them because nostalgia. Wanted Mud Blossom by Betsy Byers. It's a middle grade book that I picked up probably at a Scholastic's book fair on a whim. I love the dog stories. Not the sad ones, but that one's probably sad. This is called When the Lightning Strikes by Meg Cabot. My best friend really likes this series, and actually, I might have read this first book, I can't remember, but I don't remember enjoying it very much. I couldn't get into it, so never made it any further in the series. And then for whatever reason, I've got the series Airheads by Meg Cabot also. And I think I'm hanging on to this just to give the author another try because she's so incredibly popular. A lot of people have at least heard of Meg Cabot, even if you haven't read her. These aren't by any means her most popular books, but they're what I've got. Then I've got the Morganville Vampires series. I've got signed things here from her. I met the author before I had started reading any of her works and was intending to do a giveaway on my blog with this book, but then started the series before I got around to that and ended up liking it enough to want to keep it. As you can see, I've got 2 left here before I finish the series, and it's been one that I've had ongoing for over 6 years, it's been forever. And every now and then I get inspiration to pick up more, but as you can see, I'm in no hurry. They're decent. I really like them. They're not my favorite of the genre. They're not like addictive to me where I've got to just read the next one as soon as possible. But whenever I do read them, I like them. Got the Eve series by Anna Carey. But that one's the whole trilogy signed as well, but it's kind of a post-apocalyptic story. I haven't really heard that great of feedback on it. But I like the covers for some reason. I think it might be the blue tones. Really good. Dragon's Keep by Janet Lee Carey. It looks like someone shifts into a dragon, so I think that is the only reason why I picked up this book, aside from the fact that it's also one of those cute little trade paperbacks that I love to read. The second book in the Atherton series. I read the first one, don't remember anything about it. Thought I would hang on to the second one, but I doubt I will get to it anytime soon. But then Patrick Carman, the same author, also has this Land of Elion. These little books here. And I don't really know anything about these, but it was a cute little box set and really popular at the time that I bought it. So I thought, okay, that'll work. I'll give those a try. And while bargain book shopping, I thought I was buying more books in this series when I picked up these, but as it turns out, this is an entirely different series by itself. So, yay, I have all of them. And as it happens, one of them came signed, which is pretty cool. Was not expected at all. But yeah, I hadn't really intended to buy this. I had intended to kind of beef up. I thought I was buying a hardcover version of this series, but, you know, it's cool, whatever. Maybe I'll like these a little more than I did that other one. And then I think I picked this one up on bargain because there were so many people talking about this book. And if I'm not mistaken, Cora Carmack writes new adult stuff, which is a bit edgier, so her taking on a young adult I find that very appealing. Perhaps the love story will be a little bit more mature. I could always go for that. And I'm just noticing all the weapons and stuff on her back. I think that's kind of cool. So, yes. Word of mouth and just general interest in the author and the content. I'm looking forward to that one. Isabella Carmody and the Obertwin. This is book 3. The first 2 I actually have over in my adult section. They are in an adult format, but apparently they also marketed the same series to teens. So I picked this one up to complete that, and I've heard from people in the comments here actually that that's a really good series. So hanging on to that, looking forward to it. We have the Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger, who also writes, I think the first book is Soulless, the Parasol Protectorate, adult urban fantasy type of series. Very interested in that one, but also this one. I love anything to do with boarding schools and spies and that kind of thing, and that's exactly what this is. I actually started this book about 2 months ago and then had to put it down for other things. But, you know, enjoyed the first, 4 chapters. Pretty good. And then ended up with a signed copy, which is kind of cool. Did not meet this author. God, it is so dark back here. Sorry. Kind of a gloomy day. So, Captive by Amy Carter. This is a second book in a trilogy. And the first one was called Pawn. And I did not like some of the things the author did in that book, and it kind of threw me off from reading the next one, but I had already bought them because I love the covers. I think they are really cool. But I doubt I will ever get around to reading that. So dark. Oh my gosh. Now, this is funny. This is the second time I'm filming this video because the first time didn't have any audio, and I didn't have the patience to go back and try to voice over what I had done. But I'm sure the lighting was much better on that day. I usually try to plan it out, but you know, get to the point where the videos due and you go to edit what you already have thinking you're already done and you got to start over. So this is me adapting, but sorry about the crappy lighting. The Heist Society by Allie Carter. I am very interested in this book. First of all, Allie Carter is a really popular author. I sold her books for years, and I think the aspect of heists and really dynamic plans, which I'm hoping this has, is very appealing to me. And then simultaneously, she has another series called I'd tell you I love you, but then I'd have to kill you. So that kind of like secret society thing or whatever. So I'm very interested in those. Then I have a random compilation of short stories. This one's called Kisses from Hell. I picked it up for, let's see, probably Kristen Cass with The House of Night and Kelly Armstrong from the Summoning series. And now that I've actually read that one, I am interested in whatever short story kind of goes along with that. But it's shelved next to the Kristen and PC Cass stuff, so that's probably why I initially bought it. But these are the books that I have yet to read in The House of Night. I think I tried to read this one and then put it down in disgust. Like, the writing in here is just so immature. The characters, the first 3 books were okay, but after that, the characters just got so stupid and caricature. Like, they do not feel like real people. They feel like, okay, how do high school kids talk to each other? Well, that's how I think they talk to each other, so let's input that in here. And it's just a little ridiculous, and I kind of got tired of it. So, will I ever finish the series? I am not sure. It's definitely not calling to me. I am probably more likely to go back and read the first 3 or 4 books because I really like those, but then I got fed up beyond that. Oh, and actually, look, I have a bookmark here on this one. So there is a chance I actually read that one and then continued, and this is where I put it down, but it's hard to say. When I don't even know where I am, that's a really bad sign. Christy Cherish, I knew about her before she really got her break getting published. We had the same writing mentor, and I just remember hearing that he thought she was going to do some awesome things. And so it is really inspiring to me to see someone who's kind of in the same situation I was, but then was willing to work hard, and now she's a published author, so good for her. Although I've never met her in person. But, you know, good on you. I find you very inspiring. I don't know why my idea of turning away from the lighting was going to fix the lighting. Let's try this angle. So Clockwork Princess, Book 3 of the Infernal Devices. I liked City of Bones, that trilogy, but I didn't love it. I did not fangirl nearly as much as I thought I would, and I find that very disappointing. But I did like the very first Clockwork book by the same author, The Infernal Devices. Steampunk, obviously, kind of vibes, and clockwork. I found this one on bargain and thought if I ever do go back and continue that series, I'm going to want the whole thing, so picked up the next one. An Arc of Beta by Rachel Cohen that came out in 2012. Been 10 years and I still haven't picked it up. I don't even know if this is a standalone or a series, but I thought at the time I was reading a bunch of books like this, and I think I just got a little bit burnt out on them. I have the next 2 book is in the Match series by Ali Condi. Got a signed copy here. I would really like to like this series. The first book was just okay. It was about a 3-star. I enjoyed the idea. I liked the feel and the atmosphere of the book, but it didn't blow me away. And I've heard some feedback that the next ones are about par. Like good, decent stories, but nothing to write home about, so I've just never continued. And then Andrea Kremer, I read the initial trilogy, and then I believe these next 2 are spin-offs following a different character. Yeah, Return to the World of Nightshade. And I love the first book. I did not like the next 2 enough to warrant any more time in this world. So while I have these hardcovers, I doubt I will make time for them. But you never know. I've been kind of grouchy with YA lately. But I could just get really inspired and think, you know what? I really want a young adult werewolf story, and then I'd be all set. And then the last things on this week's tour, the Pellinor series, book of 4 books. This one's called The Naming by Alison Croghan. First of all, that short little floppy trade that I like reading. But this series, I bought it on a high recommend from a couple of customers. Like 2 or 3 people, different people came in and said, yeah, this is a series worth looking at. And at the time where I had more discretionary funds than sense, I bought them. And I hope I don't come to regret them. I don't even know what they're about. I didn't read the back of the book. I just don't want to know anything about stories before I go in. Which is kind of to my detriment sometimes when I just buy randomly like that. Anyway, that wraps up this week's Dark and Stormy Bookshelf Tour. Thanks so much for joining me on this Sunday Shelfie. I hope you found some interesting titles, and I hope to catch you next week. Bye.